All right, guys, we are back with another great episode of Bass Cast Radio. I am your host, Brian Carter, and I got Hank the Bass Geek back with us again this week from filming out on the water today. And as you guys see in the bottom half, for you guys who are watching the video version, up on the Bass Cast Radio YouTube channel, yes, head on over and follow it right now. We got a man who is wearing some shades tonight, Mr. Derik Hudson. And I'm not sure, was that Cayobunga or what was that? Is that, I'm trying to figure, I can't remember what that is, man. That's been a long time. But looking good.
Howdy.
Okay. Howdy from right here in Central VA, Mr. Derik Hudson, man. What's happening, everybody? Welcome back.
What is up?
So this is really cool. You guys all know, for you guys who do know, Derik lives down the road from me. Awesome dude. Got it. I think you got that white Tundra, don't you?
Yeah.
Ford. Tundra.
Got a white Tundra. Yep.
Yeah, I saw you coming home the other day.
Yeah, man.
Where were you, brother?
I was mudding. You get a Tundra, you gotta go mudding, man.
But you weren't mudding because you were pulling a brand new nitro on the rear end of that thing.
No, I had gone to Smith Mountain Lake and caught a big one on camera. So just have a little fun.
We'll go see that baby released.
Nice. It's already released.
It's already released?
Yeah, it's on English Choice YouTube channel. Yep.
Oh, I gotta go to their channel.
Yeah, man.
Gosh, dog it.
Got a giant on there.
I got so many channels.
It was under a dock, man. That thing was thrashing under a dock on spinning gear, and I fought it and fought it, and finally got it out.
Awesome.
Top 5 baits for fall, English Choice YouTube channel. Go check it out.
All right, there you guys go. Head on over and check out the Angler's Choice YouTube channel. There's a lot of new content going to their channel, guys. So please follow that as well. Geek, back on the water. You're shooting some content.
Yeah.
Dropped a new video today. Said I'm back.
Yeah, I'm back. So, we're slowly getting the house. I know for like you said, for those watching, you can see some studs and insulation in the background there. So, started work last week. Everything's sort of coming along. We're going to start the work on the house next week. But finally got everything rolling enough to where I could get rolling out to the lake this week. So
there you go.
Did a little filming yesterday, and did a little fishing today, but got it cut short. The luck is still not quite there.
I got a question for you, Hank.
What's that?
Did you at least get one buzzbait blow up this morning?
Man, I did not. I was so depressed. And I thought for sure it was going to be a buzzbait day, man. We got out there, but I did get I did catch one. That was it. We caught one today, and it was on a stinking good old Texas rig, man. The producer, the Texas rig. So,
man.
And
when I saw you were talking about buzzbait fishing in that fog, I got super jealous.
Dude, it killed me. They were just off. Like, you could throw it, you could sit and watch it on the Garmin. You could watch it come back, and you could see the fish, and they wouldn't respond at all. It's like they were napping.
Wow.
I was like, what is going on? So that's when I knew. I told my buddy, I said, we're going to have to drag worms today.
Slow dragging of the worm.
Yeah, I had one blow up on a topwater. I seen about a group of 5. They were sitting in about 15 feet over about 35. And I was walking this head and one knocker real slow. And they actually responded. And I was like, only fish all day I seen respond to moving baits.
Yeah.
And so I'm walking it. And I just stop it, and they literally moved at about a 90-year-old man pace upward. And then finally one of them comes up, and I just stop it, and I see one of them come out, and the rest of them just turn away, and all of a sudden, he goes, bloop, and he didn't even take it. So,
Wow.
But I did get him to break service, so hey, that was an accomplishment on this day.
That's right.
So we were talking a little bit, Mr. Hudson. You got a big event coming up, brother.
Oh, I got a few coming up. I got the 2 Angler's Choice Classics coming up. I got the Toyota Series Championship coming up. I got St. Lawrence. I was able to get out of that. The waiting list on the co-angler side was 38.
Holy cow.
I wasn't able to switch into the co-angler aspect of that. So I decided to take my money and run with it. And I'm going to go practice for the whole month of October for the championship.
Heck yeah.
Wow.
We're going to do it big.
There you go. And as always, we know it's going to pay off.
Yeah, I hope so. Let's see.
For you guys here locally in the Virginia area, if you guys haven't checked out the basscast.com, there was some breaking news in the Bass Federation Nation Bass, whatever it is, of Virginia. Because they keep changing their name. It's just the Bass does it. But Sid Ryan is the new president. Mike Bryant, things have changed there. So Mike, after 16 years, guys, I mean, since I've been running the basscast.com, has been the president, and next year it's going to be practically a whole new team. So we're very excited about that. And while we're speaking of that, a lot of schedules have come out. I have schedules. I can't release the schedules yet, but if you've already started working on your 2023 schedule, make sure you get it on over to us today. Also, for you guys who, I think about 280, almost 300 people watched this video. The video I shot on my birthday. And I thought it'd be pretty cool to put this together. You know, I titled it a video I never thought I would record ever. And it was just talking about ending one chapter of the basscast.com and moving on to another chapter. And the whole entire, you know, everybody goes through, you know, you go through the beginning, just like Geek, shooting the first couple of videos and screwing up, and you're going out there and you left the damn sound card, you know, you left your microphone at the house. And...
Wait, that was yesterday.
Oh, crap.
Hey, I'm going to tell you a quick story. So after all this is done and my boat almost burned down and I put a key switch in it, right? So I went like Friday or something, drove all the way to the lake. Guess what I didn't have? My boat keys.
Oh. So yes, there we go. We talk about hookups and hangups, and we all talk about chapters in our lives and all this stuff. And it's just turning another page in the history of the basscast.com. And
you're being modest, Brian. I mean, come on. It's not just another progression of the Basscast. It is a greater, grander, bigger version of the Basscast.
It really is. And it's going to take, guys, I'm not lying to you guys. I have brought in a web tech. I brought in someone to help us, and it's going to take 3 months to build this thing.
That's huge.
So it's going to be really huge. So now we're in the process of first round of financing, which is another chapter. And it's actually a chapter for me because I have had, you know, businesses in the past. I've LLC'd, I've incorporated, I've done all that, but it's all been family. You know, it's all been family. It's been a part of it. And now I'm actually kind of selling a part of the Basscast for the greater good of the website. Yeah. So yes, it's something that I'm having to learn, as well as post content, media releases, podcasts, press releases, fantasy fishing, and you name it.
And
but
much,
it's going to
more.
Much. Yes, Derik, much more. So a lot's happening here. Just like Derik said, we got a lot of stuff coming up. September, I think the first weekend is the holiday. I think they still have holidays. I don't know what those are, but because I'm always gone. After that, I'm gone all through September and most of October. So be back on the road. Kind of looking forward to it. I miss you guys. So tonight we got Mr. Martin Villa. I want to say Villa. I'm going to say it correctly. Is with us. He just wrapped up, guys, the Major League Fishing Pro Series title on the St. Lawrence River with an awesome finish, taking home $19,000 $20,000.
Over 20 pounds every single day.
Shoo!
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's strong. Wherever
So-
you are in the country, that's strong.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're really, really excited to have him on. And but before we bring him on, guys, I'll run down the sponsors. I usually don't do. I do this as often as we possibly can. Conrad Brothers Marine, Lynchburg Arms and Indoor Shooting Range, WW Novelty, the Bass Tank, Missile Baits, Angler's Choice, and SML Tackle Shack. Guys, if you got broken tip, you got a rod needs to be fixed, they do an amazing job up there at SML with rod repair, brand new rod builds. They are building 2 rods for us for the Bass Cast Tournament Series, which will be given away at our championship. So we want to really thank them and appreciate everyone. Appreciate all the sponsors, really. And thank you all for coming on and making 2022 an awesome season, because it really has. I mean, it's been an amazing season. So thank you all. So, guys, we're going to take a quick break and be right back with Martin Villa. All right, guys, we're back with Mr. Martin Villa, home from the St. Lawrence River. Brother, thank you for coming on, and thank you for being a part of Bass Cast Radio tonight.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Martin, before we get started, man, thought we'd kick it off with this. Who is Martin? Derik told me I don't put the L's. It's Villa. Martin Villa.
Yeah. I figured he'd correct you. His wife was trying to correct Major League Fishing, I think last month.
Gosh.
Same thing.
Yeah, we learned the hard way. My wife was getting ready to call up tournament directors and say, look here now, you got to get this straight.
Yeah. It was the tortilla thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'm blessed to be fishing at where I'm at now. I started fishing when I was in the womb, and yeah, you know,
He just went back that far.
and I caught my first fish when I was 2, allegedly. That's what
Wow.
I'm told. A flounder in the on the Chesapeake Bay, and my first fishing memory was when I was in New Brunswick, Canada, on one of my cousin's shoulders, trout fishing.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, but kind of worked my way to bass fishing, and got a family and got 2 boys that love fishing as much as I did.
Tell us about your first tournament, man. What made you jump into this derby stuff? I mean, it's a commitment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean. My first actual tournament ever,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, your first ever tournament.
well, I was driving across the dam of Beaver Creek Reservoir, and I actually did not know bass tournaments existed. And I looked over and saw a cluster of John boats and rednecks, and was like, "Oh, I got to go see what's up with that." Went up there, found out that there was a such thing as a fishing tournament, and you know, being a little teenage boy, I ran my mouth to them all and said, "Y'all watch out when I come here." And I did. I mean, I knew them all, so it was kind of a
Yeah.
thing. So, but anyways, I was hooked ever since, and slowly chipped my way up to the upper field, and realized that I was not the bass fisherman that I thought I was when I got there. But some hard work, it seemed like worked out this season anyways.
Martin's being very humble. The first time I met Martin was at the High Rock campground right there at Tamarack, and we were staying right beside each other, and he had his family with him, and I was down there fishing the BFL, and we were just, 2 guys just shooting the crap and enjoying the beautiful weather, and he went on to win that event. He's been a stick for a pretty good while now.
And the whole time before, he was like, "Yeah, I ain't on nothing."
Exactly right. Exactly right. No, I'm not finding anything.
Yeah. Actually, I took I had about 4 or 5 hours of practice, and my woman and my kids were on the boat with me, and trying to pre-fish seriously with
Oh wow.
Yeah.
two little youngsters. I caught 1 5-pounder in practice and one like 2.5-pounder, and I was glad because I was able to put one in one live well and the other in the other live well, so the kids would stop fighting. And they could actually find the live well.
Wow.
So I had nothing to go to, so I said, well, I did catch a 5-pounder, and I went there, and I ended up losing like 4 or 5-pounders that day.
Ooh.
But it ended up working out, and I won. And so I have a team partner, Timmy, and I've brought him down there. The past couple BFLs I've fished, I took him down there, and we'd go check my spots out. He'd end up catching 25, 30 pounds behind me and ruining all my holes. So, yeah, he's just, and I'm so glad because he's caught his personal best down there too. So I'm all for it. I'm not mad at him. We've learned. I've learned. He says, he's like, Martin, next time we go to High Rock, I'm not going to even fish. But they're in there. That's an awesome place to fish.
Well, that's why I'm wearing sunglasses, because I can't even look at you. You've been so on fire this year. 2022 has been very good to you.
Yes.
Yes, it was. It was very good to me.
Holy
and
cow.
it might be the best I ever do. But so I'm gonna soak it all in. When it really hit me what I was fishing, it was the knockout round going. You have an hour and a half boat ride to think about everything. So where I planned on starting when I took off was usually not where I ended up starting. But I was driving down up the river, realized what I was actually fishing. And I got a little chill there for a moment, and then put my head down and caught a 21-pound sack. So
the former Forest Wood Cup, man. I know I grew up watching a lot of the Forest Wood Cup. I mean, that's where a lot of the big names that are big now, they get a win in that, and that sets them off. And I mean, you went up there, and like I said before, they put you when they put you on 20 pounds every day. Wow.
Yeah, it was
strong showing.
It didn't go as smoothly as that sounded, but after I felt like I was scrappy enough down there to make it happen daily. And actually, really, I feel like once you figure out how to catch them on that fishery, you best off to go fish new water, because the big ones like first. I did better when I explored.
Fresh water every day.
Not fresh, some, and I would, and I had an area that I would try to stay in, and as the tournament went on, that area got a little bigger, and the big fish seemed like they were the dominant ones, and I had maybe a 26, 27-pound day in practice, and just clobbered them. I mean, every time you drop down, you catch a 4.5, and you wouldn't even, you just like, And so I went into the tournament thinking like 25, 26, 27 pounds a day was going to be, and thankfully it wasn't, because I wasn't on that class of fish. But every time I went to something new, I would run into the 5+ pound fish again.
So now, were you starting at one particular area, a small stretch, like a sweet spot, and then expanding as the morning went on every day? Is that how you were doing it?
Well, so in practice, I put in down or upriver, and I started out catching small fish and bounced around, and then all of a sudden I started catching big 5s too. And it was about a couple mile stretch there that I was able to catch those 4 to 5 pound fish. Day 2 in practice, I left and went to some history, and the biggest thing I could find was 4 pounds. And so the afternoon, second day of practice, I ran back to that area, did not fish the same stuff, but went to new stuff, and immediately caught 20 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So I had recognized there was an area there that if I got into the right depth, the right situation, It would just repeatedly happen. And the short fishing day is a hard thing to get over. It makes you really question your ability to expand. It's one thing if you pull up to spot 1 and spot 2, and next you know you have 20 pounds in your boat, because it was one of those days I caught them pretty quickly, and I went and moved around, and I ended up calling 2 good calls. But then you can almost have too much to fish when you only. I really only had about 4.5 hours fishing, and that includes the running between the spots.
Yeah, I was going to ask how long a run did you have?
I ran, it was an hour and a half. So an hour and a half there, and I allowed an hour and 45 minutes to get back. One time I was 30 minutes early. The other time I was 20 minutes early. And messing with those northern smallmouth this time of year, they're post-spawn. They're like us outside, you know, in the heat working. All you want to do is get back in that AC. And if you have a good bag and I have killed fish, or you know, I've had dead penalties happen to me. Was trying to gain another quarter pound and end up losing it because you know those fish are fragile. You got to get them into the weigh in and get them back into their environment.
Yeah, I know I've had more trouble out of smallmouth in summer tournaments than largemouth. So I don't know if that's
The northern smallmouth, they're not, I wouldn't even call them a warm water species. They are like the trout. They're a cold water species, and you got to put a lot of ice on them. It's just the last hour, like the first, like throughout the day, they're all good, but you know that last hour is the toughest one. And then if you waited to the last minute and beat your fish to death, that's how you would lose one that way too. The hardware in your live well, like the aerator. I have a little plug to plug my the overflow hole in there, and I've noticed that, you know, I would have 5 perfectly live fish go 30 minutes down Lake Champlain and in 3 and 4 footers, and then come back and they, you know, 2 of them will be yellow, and so I line the inside of my live well up with yoga mat actually. And, and yeah. And it made a big difference because the St. Lawrence you run into those barges, and if you only have 2 barges or 1 barges, your trip is that much faster. But if you run into like 3 or 4 of them, you know, for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 miles, those waves will just come, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just gotta drive through it. But I would compare it to, especially the Canadian side, the Canadian Narrows. I would compare it to Smith Mountain Lake in July.
Wow.
And trying to keep some bass alive like that, but driving for an hour and a half, or you know, a long ways. It was difficult. It took a lot of. You had to pay attention to do a lot of extra time for fish care.
Yeah,
you're talking about Smith Mountain.
Usually the southern smallmouth is a little bit tougher.
You're talking about Smith Mountain in July. That place is a zoo. I grew up fishing there in an aluminum boat. When I was 16, my dad would go and drop me off there, and I'd fish an aluminum boat in that July weather with, you know, 30-foot cigar boats running up and down, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
Holy
I mean, it's those boats on the Canadian side are, you know, they're like $500,000 to $3 million boats standing 2-3 foot waves. It was crazy.
That's there's a little lake, and this is a little lake. It's dead center in the 3 cities where I live at. Holy cow! I mean, it looks like things that people would be using to shuttle, you know, people to the Statue of Liberty. You know, you're behind those boats and you're going, holy cow, what is this doing out here? So I understand.
I still wonder about them on Smith Mountain Lake, to be honest. I've seen them, you know, it's like, why is this boat actually here?
Yeah.
There's no way you can get it up. You know, I was up there 2 years ago for an event, and I was like, you can't get this thing up to full speed. I mean, we got 5 motors on the back, so like 350 horsepower piece. I mean, they look pretty, sound good, I guess, but I mean, you kill somebody.
Martin, I got a question for you.
Go ahead,
sir.
So when you find your fish an hour and a half away, and you know that that's the quality and caliber of fish to win the event, or at least to put you in good contention, how much better did it feel knowing that you had that newer Mercury Ranger combo that you had decided to get? I think you got last year, and to have that, knowing that you can make that long run, and your likelihood of getting there through the rough water was going to be a lot better.
I mean, that's one of the more stressful things. First, I'll be honest with you. If I was fishing for points, I probably would not have made that run.
Yeah.
It's a gamble. Anytime you're running your boat half of the day or only, almost.
Yeah.
And the peace of mind that Mercury never ever once had any hiccup. And the 520C that I'm running, definitely, I was glad to have that in that water. Some of my marshals complained about some of the other boats, and I was grateful that we were in that one. But definitely, it's a stressful ride because you're 45 minutes away from everything in either direction, and you're on the Canadian side, so you can't, you don't want to break down over there.
Yeah.
And then you've got a lot on the line. So I was definitely grateful that all my equipment performed like I needed to, except for my scales. They got wet, and I had a little issue there, and I may or may not have caught a three. I had a 337 and a 370, and when I pulled that one out of the weighing bag, it looked like my 337, and I was like, oh no. It wouldn't have won anything, but it was all happening at the same time real fast, and I just made a decision and grabbed it. But
I've had the same issue with my scales getting wet before. I've actually dropped them in my live well before and screwed myself up. And I just recently got some waterproof scales from AccuCold, so I'm excited to give them a try.
Yeah, I think I need a pair of something more waterproof because. But yeah, it's I knew that I needed a big call anyways, and it was I went to new water at 11:30, so I had about an hour and 45 minutes. So I caught a 5 2/4, and I was really disappointed. I knew I did an interview the day before that I was like, I have to go to new water. I just know that to get the big bites. And the problem with it was the day 3, I went to a set of humps in my area that I caught some 3.5s off, and I said, hey, let me make a pass. And I caught 2 5s.
Oh, wow.
One of them was like 5.5. And I thought I pinned the spot, and I did. My cursor wasn't, it was elsewhere.
Oh,
so the second I hit the spot lock on the first 5-pounder, and I got it in, and I was happy. Put him in the live well, made my call. I looked back over there, and there's like 15 of them sitting underneath the boat. Well, I dropped back down. There's a 5.5. I get him in. Well, somehow I got the spot lock knocked off. Didn't hit the cursor, or didn't get the waypoint. Blew off it, and I was like, I knew I didn't want to catch any more anyways, because I felt like at that moment there that I was like, I saw the winning spot.
Right.
And I was like, if I find that 15 fish, there's 23 to 26 pounds of fish in that pool.
Yeah.
And I made 3 passes at them and never found it. And the other side of the hump, I caught some 3.5s. I got back to that. And as soon as you got to that mark, that's where they were. There were specific spots. I don't know why they wanted to be there, because they weren't actually usually in the rocks. They were kind of like maybe on the edge where the rocks and the shell and the sand kind of meets. But I just, so I spent a little bit of time. I felt like it was the right call. You catch 2 5s there in 2 drops the day before. That in the knockout round, you have to go back there and make a couple passes to see if you can find that school, because it was so obvious when you saw them. And I saw fish that followed those fish up that were bigger than the mark that I had with me. I started, if you pay attention to what's following you, you know what's with them. And and the products are so good now that you can tell when you're looking at a 4 to 6 pound bass on that live well. On the live scope.
Right.
And I had a couple fish. The other thing is the zebra mussels are a nightmare. You almost have to use a drop shot. I know other people were using other stuff, but they sit there with their shells open, and when you come through, they're just clamping on. And I haven't had time to experiment with the 10-pound line, but I'm using 8. And if you don't pay attention to that stuff or check it about every few casts, you're playing with fire. And what I've learned is I dropped on half of my fish I caught. And what I learned was that the longer your lure was in the water, I don't always believe that's good there, because about 10 seconds there's a goby. No matter where you drop it, 10 seconds there's a goby on your line. And they'll take that little one and fold it. And so you'll have it hooked twice. And then you're just winding with all your finesse stuff into this fish, and this fish just flies up. And then he's just gone. You never really got him. And so the other thing is there's a bunch of current. So when, the current will spin it all around. So dropping on them was my favorite way. And anytime you found one, if you hit that spot lock, you could get another one off of it. And right at the end of the day 4, I caught 2 4-pounders off this little island, this little seam there, and there was like 30 of them in there. And the second one that followed me in, I mean, I could see a half a dozen fish in there that were substantially bigger. I dropped down, missed a couple of them, and I just felt like, the problem with it is that school wouldn't let me sit on them. They were too, after the second one, they got educated. And I caught some rats with them too. And I needed to give it like another 15 minutes to let it sit and come drift back across it again. And I felt like I was good for another quality bite. But, if it was meant to be, it was going to happen. And either way, I am 100% happy that I was able to compete at that level with those guys at that awesome place.
Yeah.
Speaking on the fact of the matter, you were talking about the gobies. So the second day of the group that Spencer Sheffield won to go to the championship round, he jumped off one that was over 6 pounds, where he set the hook, the fish jumped 5 foot out of the water, went back down, and then just came unbuttoned. And when he reeled it in, it had a goby on the hook, was what prevented that hook from getting to the barb.
Wow.
I mean, if you're just down there to have fun, I'm not opposed to just letting one eat your hook, because it's almost a guarantee. The first day,
he was devastated by it, and he still ended up winning his group. So it all worked out for him. But
my hat's off to that guy. That guy is a step above. He is. I will never be the best fisherman that man is. But I'll tell you what. Day 1, I made the long run. I went and got gas. I'd never even got gas at the gas pump that I got at in the tournament before. Just one of my fellow competitors kind enough to tell me, he's like, yeah, get it here. They'll run out. So they had some, young kids out there that were very quick to help you out. So I could get fuel into my spot within an hour and a half.
Nice.
But to make the run back, it took at least an hour and a half, if not longer, without getting. But I got to my first spot. And my first spot, I caught a 514 in practice, and then made the next drift over of about 200 feet over, caught a 5.5, and then caught 2 3.5s in the next drift over. So I was like, oh, I have a spot where I got big ones and a limit. And I came there, my first drop, I felt the goby, and next it just went and mushed up. And I wound down, set the hook, and like a 6.5. I don't know how big that fish was. The biggest smallmouth I've ever seen in my life. I'm flying out of the water, threw my flatworm, and I got it back in. And all threaded on my hook, all funny. And after that, I crank. That starts running through your head. And so you crank your drag down a little bit. If you're having retied, or you don't recognize that there's a zebra mussel cut in your line, and then you overstay. So it's a fine line. Those rods, I was using that Matrix rod, that 7.2, was specifically designed for that river, and that extra little backbone on that thing is the difference when it comes to those fish shooting up and jumping off.
Wow.
I had a smallie on the final day, actually on 2 different days. I was looking at eye level with one that jumped out next to the boat.
Holy cow!
Wow.
Pulled him right back.
And you're a tall dude, so.
It was crazy how high that. I looked back at the cameraman and I was like, "Did you get that?" He's like, "Yeah, I got that." But I guess they didn't play it. I mean, I had to see that footage because I pulled it right in and it flip flopped in on my foot pedal.
Wow!
It was like I did it twice.
Wow!
So Martin, earlier you were talking about, you said you made the long run, but you're talking about sand and rocks. Was that what you were concentrating on for most of the event, or
Yeah. Was there a
no.
certain type of
That
cover
was that.
structure?
So where the river is skinnier, it's faster. The current's faster.
Mhm.
Yes.
And where it's wider, it's slower. So last year I fished in the skinnier section closer to the boat ramp, and it's basically drifting unless you find a spot where you can spot lock, and fish some current breaks. But you with the current moving that much, it positions them behind a current break. So the backside of a hump, the backside of an island, and so the final day of the Toyota that I fished last year, day 2, I got a decent check. I just didn't make the top 10. The wind blew against the current, and want to pay attention to how fast you're drifting. And when the wind blew against the current, it slowed the current down, and it also slowed my drift down. And what I noticed was that the fish weren't positioned on the backside of the current breaks, because just that like 0.2, 0.3 mile an hour was the change, and it completely changed the habits of the fish. And so they would actually there's like a specific speed of water, and that's maybe relative to the area that they desire, especially in the summertime. Here in Virginia, the smallmouth in your rivers are going to be in that white water or in the deep pools. But the head of the pools where the most is. And so I noticed in that Toyota last, when it slowed down, they went to the brakes on the side where it's sped up. And it took me most of the day to figure that out. When you drift like a half a dozen times, you're beat, because it takes time to do this, and that you're limited on the amount of time. And granted, that was a Toyota series, and I didn't run quite as far. But once I figured out that I needed to move to the brakes that were parallel to the currents, then I was able to quickly put the weight in the boat that I needed to get the check. But so I remembered that from last year, and the section that I fished is wider, it's slower. And so it was like 0.6 to 0.8 mile an hour. And I caught smaller fish out in the wide open. Like I'd ride around, find a big old something out there, to fish. And I was struggling to catch anything over 3.5. And so I went to neck down areas around those islands where it sped up just a little bit. And that's where those bigger fish were for me. And so you just, every spot had a different key structure, but after you pressured fish for a time or two, you can knock them off the structure, and then they're just over here and over there, So you got to pay attention to them. And, smallies are like the pelagic bass. So they'll use their fins in a heartbeat. And those fish are old. Yeah. They're very, so a lot of people, like, I'll refer to a saltwater fish, the cobia. They call it the dumbest fish in the sea. And when it enters our Chesapeake Bay in May and June, it's pretty dumb. But when it leaves here, after it's seen a bunch of fish, that fish is not that easy to catch anymore. So there's like 20-year-old smallies, when you first show up, hey, they're dumb. After they recognize that you've been there, and a lot of times they follow you up, they follow the other ones up to the boats. So but every spot I had, it was something unique on there. And then you would, and if you had a major break, like, so if you had a spot where the current moved like 0.9 to 1 mile an hour, and there was like a 20-foot break, the whole section, maybe for another 300-400 yards below that, the fish would, if you got into that eddy, the fish would pull off to the bottom to see them on your units, and those are the ones you want to drop on. When they're in that faster current, they'll lock to that structure to where you can't really see them unless you're on the high side shooting out across to the deeper water. And that fish is just off the rock, you can see them. But what I found was anytime I threw around rocks, then I was going to end up getting gobies, and my line was getting messed up. So at practice, I started throwing the rocks. After that, I found that getting behind those current breaks in that little bit of faster water in that section of water in the river was how I was able to pick it apart. It's kind of like the Tennessee River. When that thing moves, eddies are the ones you want to be in. It makes it so
for anybody not listening, anybody that's listening that's not drifted before, how are you keeping up with that speed? Are you putting your GPS speed up on your front unit so that you can constantly see that and see what that speed is?
Yes. You just want to keep your eye on that, and you'll notice. And so when you if you go up there, what I recommend you doing is go running to the first buoy you see and putting your trolling motor down and go by that. You'll realize how fast you're moving. Out in the wide open, you don't quite realize.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then you go there. Every one of those buoys has a big concrete block that has sometimes 20 smallmouth sitting behind it, sometimes only, sometimes none. But you can just go chase.
Watching that event.
Go ahead.
Watching that event on live, there was a few anglers that were fishing those buoys, and they wouldn't put their spot lock on when they caught a fish, and then the next minute you notice they're 100 yards down from it.
Yeah, quickly when you're fighting the fish, you get a big one, a big smallie, and he doesn't want to pull off that block like that, and you can, he'll just to stay that way. But you want to allow yourself enough time to get set, and you want to like use your trolling motor once you find a speed that you're successful at. And I mean, you don't want to be chasing the bait, but you don't also want to be dragging it, because the more you drag it, the more likely you're going to hang up. And when you're drifting and that smallie mushes on that thing, you'll feel that thing kind of mush up, but then it'll rise up off the bottom a little bit. The big ones, a lot of times it'll just go slack.
Wow.
And then and just wind down on them. Don't set the hook. Just wind as fast as you can until you got some good drag on it. And then usually he's coming up to show you that he can throw your drop shot.
All right, guys, we have with us tonight Martin Villa from right here in Central Virginia. Just about home about a week, ain't you? From the St. Lawrence River. Finished up the Major League Fishing Pro Series Tittle event.
Yep.
So, Martin, I've got a question for you about your rods. I noticed that the Douglas rods that you were using, it seemed like they had a lot of backbone, but a lot of tip at the same time. It's like a good combination. Did you feel like that was a big key to fighting those big smallmouth?
Yeah, it very well was. I mean, it's a very light rod, extremely sensitive. That tip is everything. I mean, it's like tick, tick, tick. You can, once you've felt the mush of that fish, I think with that rod, it just helps that much better. But the extra backbone is needed for those fish, because even when you're dropping straight down on them, you're still 40 feet, 50 feet away from those fish. I caught some all the way in pushing 70 feet.
Wow. You said earlier you were using 8-pound test. What kind of setup did you have? Like your weight, your hook, your lure? What was you throwing mostly on those fish?
Well, I was throwing 10-pound Power Pro to a 8-pound Gamma Touch leader.
Okay.
I am sold on Gamma Touch. If you go to North Country Smallmouth, you better have Gamma Touch with you. And I was using a number 1 split shot drop shot, the Gamakatsu, with a 1/2 ounce Woo tungsten green pumpkin color, and the worm was green pumpkin too. So I mean, up north, it seems like most of the prey that they eat, whether it's in Champlain or in St. Lawrence, other than with the exception of the alewife, the perch are forever pestering your baits, and that drop shot is just like one little green pumpkin thing being chased by another little green pumpkin, and it triggers a response just like anything else. And it's a feeding response triggered by another feeding response. The predator catches that prey messing up, and he's coming for all that prey is occupied.
Wow.
I didn't get to tell you, but the last day at Champlain that I had those 5 smallies, they spit up gobies in my live well.
Really?
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time. That will be the best one.
Yep.
That will be the best fishery. If those gobies take hold and get in there like they are in the St. Lawrence, it's over with. Because the smallies on Champlain are bigger than those St. Lawrence fish, like body wise. If the Champlain fish had gobies, they would be, instead of 5s and 6s, they'd be 5s to 8s. Like they're huge fish. The 20-pound sacks we catch at Champlain, they're post-spawn fish. Now, if you're going to Champlain, the inland sea, the Vermont side, at the time we're there, I just think it's further progressed and there's a bigger alewife, bigger. But the fish I was catching at Champlain were like our river fish here. They were big 4-pounders. They were fun to catch.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right, so I think we'll wrap up with a few questions here. I've got one, man. The final day, I saw you with the top 10. How did that feel, man? Knowing that, you got Bobby Lane in that thing, man. And you touch,
You know,
call Kyle Katrina, Matt Becker. I mean, there's a lot of big sticks in that thing. Plus the winner, Spencer Sheffield.
And you had a pile of big sticks that didn't make it to that.
Yeah, and you had a pile that didn't
yeah.
make it. Yeah.
Yeah.
you had a pile of sticks that didn't make the championship.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, one thing I say about our tour, I don't know which, I won't say any tour is tougher than the other thing, but to make the championship cut with 157 anglers it's tough. In the Bassmaster Elites, I think almost half the field makes it. So,
Right.
I think that people that maybe previously took a championship, maybe not for granted, but were commonly, I mean, you could very easily slip up once or twice in this trail, and you're not in.
Wow.
And then the other thing that really, back to your question, was, what really hit me the most is when not only being around guys, when the guys recognized, as
Wow.
I felt some of them looked at me as equal, and that was
Right.
really meant something to me
That's awesome.
because they're great. Yeah.
All right, Geek. Final question.
Man, he's answered all my questions. I mean, the biggest thing is where you off to next, I guess. What's on the schedule now?
Well, I haven't seen a new schedule yet. I plan on fishing, Lord willing, that I fish the tour again next year. I have asked for, now that I have a season under my belt, and I kind of realized that it's the competition's stiffer than I was it's stiffer than I was expecting. I went down to Texas on my first one and got a check, and I was like, oh, this ain't nothing. No, no, absolutely not. And then I realized that I was fishing against actual bass fishermen, and I'm a professional bass fisherman, but I have the loves for other species, and so it may be. I always wondered, and I stopped questioning that after this championship, or after my second half of my season. The James River was understood because I know the fishery, but the other ones, the fact that I was able to compete with them. But I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's been an amazing season. I lived a dream that everybody in bass and tournament fishing wants to do, and I was able to live it. So it was just an amazing experience.
So, curious question for you. I don't even know, but in the pro circuit, where do you have to finish in the pro circuit to requalify for the next year?
I think it's up to them. I think that there's some stipulations. Like, I know my understanding was if I was a rookie and I finished below 75, I could get cut. But I think, I mean, obviously there's a group of Toyota guys that are coming in, and somebody's going to have to leave to fill those, open those spots up.
Oh yeah.
But I hope I don't have to worry about that end. I mean, it was a concern of mine before I went to James. I said, if I didn't show up and actually day one, I didn't have it like 12 pounds. And I was at the end of day one on the James, everybody around me that was staying at the same place, they had, were strangers to the fishery and had caught 15 to 18 pound bags. And here I was, a local with nothing. And I was sitting there that was a pivot point of mine. And I thought I was going to get cut. And, so I didn't sleep well that night. I said, man, I can't believe in this tournament, I got all these guys getting ready to kick my teeth in my home waters. And I prayed that night. I woke up the next day and I jacked them. And from then on, as the end of the tournament, I had confidence in that at least I can compete on my home waters because I made the top 10. Mm-hmm. And I left and went to the Potomac and got a top 10 Toyota finish. And when I went to Champlain and had a decent day one and started climbing up to my, to where I needed to be, my confidence. See, a lot of it is confidence. These guys, everybody is good there. And you need to have confidence in yourself and in your decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing. And people like Michael Neal, like that dude, his confidence is through the roof. And I understand why. I mean, they know. And that's actually part to my second half of the season with my successes is I went to fisheries that I'm not going to say I know them, but I've seen them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to familiar enough waters where, you can do all the research and the people on a fishery, but when you get there, it's not what you thought it was. It never is.
So you finished the season in the 37th, I think.
36th.
36, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You dug yourself out of a hole for sure. Your second half was super strong for sure.
Yes, and that's what I survived. I survived this year because I made, you make rookie mistakes. I like I said, I got that first check and I kind of just overlooked everything, and Harris Chain punched me in my face and I needed it. And Harris Chain was great all the way until the tournament. I clobbered him in practice. And everywhere in Florida, that is an amazing fisher. I've never been to Florida before, but everywhere in Florida is just amazing. We fished Lake Yale. We caught I don't know how many giant bass. It was a great experience. And then so I went to Pickwick, and I thought that, hey, if I got to check my point, I was going to climb for the points like you do in the beach house. That is not how it works with those guys. You can get a 60th place, or get a good play, get a check, and I was only climbing like 4 or 5 points at a time, and I was like, oh, yeah. And so at Gunnersville, I didn't climb much, and I was talking to a friend, and he said, this is the same 50 guys that are getting, and so he's like, you got to get like a top 10 to move, and that's when I realized, and really to like get like because my goal next year, I hope I can do as well as I did this year. I mean, that was a great year, but ultimately that BPT, I would like to take a crack at that, and you have to finish in the top 10. So you have to get more than one top 10 a year to get into that top 10.
Very true.
Well, I'm looking forward to giving you a run for your money next year.
That's right.
Pro circuit, and then we can both finish in the top 10 and go to the BPG.
That would be awesome.
All right, guys.
Yep.
Anybody got any more questions?
I was just going to say, it sounds like, you really turned the corner. You found your confidence, midway through the season. You started to believe, okay, I took a shot, but now I know I belong here by the end of the season. So
I think, glad you said that, because that's exactly how I feel. The thing, I needed that punch in the face of Harris Chain, because if I had a really good finish in there, I mean, if I had maybe got a top 25 or something, I may have scratched at that BPT. I haven't really done any math, but I know that was the one Achilles that I had. But I needed that because it made me realize that I needed to work on myself and in all aspects on that. And if I hadn't had that finish, I probably wouldn't finish as well as I did the second half of the season.
So going into 2023, if you could just pick one thing that you're going to change, that you have learned from this year, that you're going to do different going into the next year, what would it be to be more successful and make that top 10?
Pre-practice.
Good question, Derik. Good question.
Pre-practice. If you've not been there, there's things you can do during pre-practice that you don't need to waste time doing during the tournament. When you only have 2 days, you get up and you're on that water at sun up, and you get off at sundown for 2 days. Nothing else. You eat, breathe, sleep, bass fishing, and you go fill your boat up. You go take a shower. You go to bed. You wake up 5 hours later. You do it again. And so if you can cross your T's and dot your I's before you go, and you never can really. You try to hope for something, and I've learned that every time I hope for a bite, it never happens.
Right.
You just said, I'm trying to hope. I hope just to be prepared for that when it comes. And that's what you need. A little bit of pre-practice. Get familiar with the water. Get familiar with the boat ramp. Those guys already have an advantage with you if they know where the tournament's at. That's one thing I can say. Yeah. And there's certain things that you can do any time of year on those fisheries. And the guys that are really successful, they live, eat, breathe, sleep bass. They're always preparing for a tournament that they don't even have on the schedule.
I mean, that's the reason why local advantage is something people talk about in a lot of events, because if you're comfortable with cloud cover making them run to docks, and that's just the way the fishery works, or whatever that little bit of advantage can be in pre-practice, I can see can give you that for sure.
Yeah.
Well, even like just being familiar with the place, like perfect example, Smith Mountain Lake. A lot of times the best spawn or the best pre-spawn fishing is where the wintering schools were. And not all wintering holes have equal populations. Like sometimes the wind blows out of the south a little bit more and pushes all the bait over to this section. So, you know, as soon as the weather warms up, like the 3 creeks in that section of the fishery are the hot ones. And you would have never known that had been hanging around there.
Good point.
Just little things like,
yeah, very good.
And I've also learned that you practice. I think that I dial better in is if I'm goofing off, and you don't have time to goof off during those. Like those times where you're just like, you know how you randomly run into the best fishing holes? It's never when you intend to.
Right.
You randomly run into it. Like you have that kid on your boat and said, "Dad, I'm gonna throw this hula popper." Like, yeah, right, whatever. Next thing you know, you're on eBay looking for hula poppers. So, you know, or sometimes you have like a gas motor issue and you're trolling and motoring around the bridge on the Roanoke River. And next thing you know, you catch 25 pounds and you would have never done that, you know, in the circumstances. So I tell you what I've learned is I used to be a shallow water angler. I love bank fishing the bank. I love fishing shallow cover. And like that's bass fishing, you know, getting to see a big old bass come up and blow up on the surface. But with the format that we're in, the 2 days of practice, the offshore fishing is the fastest way to cover your new fisheries. And then like half of your tournaments on the Tennessee River anyways. So they're just typically offshore fish. So
yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. You brought up the current and you compared it to the Tennessee River. Now I'm down, you know, right at the Tennessee line. I've got a lot of experience. The Tennessee River's, you know, just a couple hours south of me, and I've fished it a lot. And we were speaking to a gentleman the other day, and he was talking about flow. Or well, last year he was talking about flow, and what was it? He won some championship, but he was using a long A, which is a topwater technique that we use down here a lot. And in the tail race, I believe it was on Pickwick.
Yeah, the Toyota championship.
Yeah, the Toyota.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And he caught it off of, or he'd learned that technique, and he knew the exact flow that it had to be to set those bass up behind those current breaks. Yeah,
Brent Pro.
Yeah,
Brent Pro. He was sitting in 10th. He barely squeaked into the last day.
Yep.
And then won on the last day.
And he was all about the current flow right there, and so that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal smallmouth fishery in itself. The Tennessee River, if it only had 4 months of fishing like New York does, I still think the Tennessee River is the best smallmouth fishing in the world. Yeah, I would say it still is. If it had gobies and had all the rest of it, 13-pound smallmouth down there.
I got to get you guys down here. I'm telling you, it's the best kept secret. There's 2 little lakes down here. Everybody talks about Cherokee. Cherokee Lake's garbage. I'm just saying it right now. Garbage. Cherokee Lake's garbage. Need to come fish 2 little lakes.
One back to Dale Hollow. I'm coming back to Dale Hollow.
Oh, now listen, I'm not going to ever say a bad word about Dale. I'm never saying a bad word about Dale. But you need to come down here, especially this winter. Fish with me. We're going to do some Demiki rigging. Where it all started.
Yeah.
Out on South Holston. Not garbage, Cherokee. Garbage. And, you know, we just come down here and do some fun on that in Watauga. So a couple of Highlands reservoirs that, listen, y'all bring some of them gobies down here, put them in there, and I'm telling you, we'll be pulling 10-pounders out.
Quick story. The first time I heard about South Holston, I went to Watts Bar because it was a BFL division in the Tennessee area that the regional was coming to Smith Mountain Lake. And I was like, oh, let me go over there and see what I can do. So I go to Watts Bar, and my dad went with me as my co-angler sign up. And he drew a guy that was a local to Watts Bar. And my dad caught a 4-pound smallmouth in the first 5 minutes. And it sparked the conversation of that guy's best smallmouth. And he had one that was almost 10 pounds that he had caught.
Wow.
South Holston, baby. I'm telling you. You wouldn't believe that lake's it's a little bit on a downswing right now size wise, but if you ever hear anybody talk about a little green worm, That's basically code for they're on the bed on South Holston, and I live on that lake that time of year. So good times.
I've never fished it.
Well, I got a spare room. You know, you guys are always invited. Come on down.
Awesome stuff.
That far.
All right, man. Appreciate y'all coming on tonight's show. Martin, man, appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for being a part of Bass Cast Radio. Congratulations,
brother.
Congratulations on an awesome season. I know we'll be supporting you as well as Derik next year. So
yes,
looking forward to that. And man, guys, we're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna be.
Wait, we got to let him shout out his sponsors.
Oh yeah, go for it. My bad.
Yeah. So I've got some the first, like, the industry sponsor I have, Douglas Rods, the amazing rod company. They're great to work with. Locally, Bricks and Stones Masonry, that's our family company in Charlottesville, Virginia. And Virginia Stoneworks, a friend of mine, big fisherman too. Splicing Glass, the fiber optics company, Terry Ollinger owns that. EDF Renewables, they're a renewable energy company. They're a big company, and they have some projects in Virginia, and the names of them is Smallmouth Bass Solar, Largemouth Bass Solar. My neighbor is who I deal with. He's an avid fisherman, so you guys should check them out too as well. And Sturgeon Creek Marina at Lake Anna, that'd be my home lake. And anybody in our area, Lake Anna is as good as any lake is in the state of Virginia. It was not like that 2 decades ago. It has quietly become one of the better ones.
Mm-hmm.
So
there you go.
Yep.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking with us again. And like I said, good luck in 2020. We're already saying that 2023. So it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I'm going to see where we go.
All right, guys, I really appreciate local angler, Mr. Martin Villa, coming on and talking with us tonight. Derik, we appreciate you coming back on with us, the show.
Oh, yeah.
It was funny. Someone made a comment earlier, be like, was John Sokup not available? So we got Derik Hudson. Because there for a little while, it was almost the John Sokup show.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was so much happening in his life. And if he wraps it all up, it's going to be a whole lot happening in his life. Current leader, AOY in the Toyota Series. So there's a lot going on for him as well. And, man, that'd be awesome for him. So
it would. For
Mr. John Sokup. But, guys, appreciate you listening. Derik, like I said, we talked during the show, got some travel coming up. Got a lot of events coming up, so good luck with you on those.
I appreciate it.
And then you're gonna make Central Virginia, Concord, Virginia proud. We should make you next year the mayor of the parade. All 12 vehicles.
I'm just gonna keep giving it to the Lord and let it roll the way that it rolls. And at the end of the year, enjoy every minute of it.
Derik, man, we appreciate you coming on and being a part of Bass Cast Radio the last couple of episodes, and we'd love to have you on more. Just throwing that out there.
Definitely.
You want to
be? We didn't even get to talk to Martin about trout fishing, and that's like his first love, his first baby, and I'd love to pick his brain on something like that.
That'd be awesome. Guys, make sure you head on over and follow Geek's channel as well. I think, what do we see? 60,000.
We hit 60 the other day.
I pay attention, guys. I don't say a lot, but I pay attention.
Little sad though, but we're like I said, we're rolling. The videos are coming back out every Sunday, every Wednesday, and then we sprinkle the shorts in between. So check it out.
Wow.
All right, so make sure you're following Bass Geek as well. Derik Hudson on Instagram, Facebook, and make sure you guys hit the follow button. I'm Bass and Brian 73 if you really want to follow me for some crazy reason. And guys,
TikTok growing.
Yes. And you guys, for some of you guys that don't know, I shot my first influencer video this past week.
Oh, really?
For Puff and Drinkware. A very unique item that was mailed to my house. It's a really cool little life jacket that you zip up for the outdoorsman.
Cool.
That is wild.
It's really cool. You know, it's pretty neat Christmas gift or, you know, something of that nature. So yeah, and I got great feedback.
I have to put that in my wife's ear. I need that for my Monster Energy drinks on the water.
Yeah, there you go.
And it comes in life jackets. It comes in about 12. Is it how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 different styles that you can get it from in different colors.
I am the world's worst about cracking a Monster open first thing in the morning to get a little caffeine, and then getting so focused on fishing by 5 hours later, I go to drink and it's hot. It's like oh no.
Yep.
World's worst.
So make sure you guys check out puffindrinkware.com. Really appreciate them. And they sent us 2. And guys, I think I'm going to give them all away. It's 2 of them. And we're going to make a little contest and give it away. So I really don't keep a lot here because I have a lot. As Derik saw last week, there's a lot in his basement. Needs to be going out of here. Needs to go. But appreciate you guys. Thank you all for listening. We will be back next week. As you guys know, we got the final 2022 Bassmaster Elite event is this weekend. For you guys who are playing fantasy fishing with us, we have 50 people play fantasy fishing with us this year. Thank you to all of you guys. Someone will be taking home a $100 gift card brought to you by the Basscast. We don't have a sponsor for that. Would love to have a sponsor for that. Comes out of our pocket. But it's to their online tackle store of their choice, or if they live somewhere right here in our area and I can pick it up, that's cool as well. But thank you to everyone who played with us. The season's almost over. It's kind of sad, but we're gearing up and we're ready for 2022. So thank you to everyone. Guys, thank you for being a part of the show tonight, as always.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
And like I said, guys, we'll be back next week.